Well, you have seen it in pictures, you already know the prices, more or less they are out, and I think they are quite impressive. But now is the crunch time. Now let's find out how the XUV700 drives. Let's find out if this car lives up to the hype. So we are at Mahindra's all-new SUV Proving Track. It's in the outskirts of Chennai. It has got everything that you can throw at this car, including a high-speed track, an off-road track, and everything in between. So we have this car to ourselves for the whole day today, and we are going to drive and test everything that is on offer. So let's hop in and see if the Mahindra XUV700 is the real deal.
You're watching the AutoX YouTube channel. You can also get your daily dose of all things automotive on our website, autox.com, and follow us on social media. Don't forget to check out our monthly magazine and make sure to hit the bell and subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
Well, you must have seen the pictures of the XUV700 on the internet when they surfaced online, spy shots and all, and it sent the internet in a frenzy because this car looked a little disproportionate. But I'm happy to report that that's not the case because it is actually quite decent. The style grows on you. Of course, the design is quite busy and especially at the rear. But overall, when you see the car in profile or in person actually, you think it's quite proportionate. Even though it's an all-new vehicle, the XUV700 looks remarkably similar to the XUV500. With its design, Mahindra has taken an evolutionary approach rather than going all out, something they did back in 2011 when the original XUV500 was launched. There are some striking design elements though, like the double C-shaped LED DRLs with full LED lights, a humongous grille with extensive chrome treatment, and then it also gets Mahindra's brand new logo. In terms of size and dimensions, it's slightly longer than the 500. Standard design elements include flush door handles, 18-inch alloy wheels, and a rather busy-looking rear end. To be honest though, it doesn't look as odd in person as it did in spy pictures from a couple of weeks ago. The arrow-shaped LED tail lamps look premium, and the boot lid is made entirely of plastic since using metal would have posed design limitations. So overall, there are a lot of nice touches in this car, even in terms of design. But once you step inside the cabin, well, that's a totally different story. The party piece of the XUV700 is of course the interior. The moment you enter in this car, you know that it is very special, and Mahindra has done everything to woo customers. You know, this cabin is packed with all the modern features. Now the main highlight of course is this big super screen which is made up of two 10.25-inch screens. So this one is the touch, it's used for infotainment, and the other one is of course is the driver display, which is also digital. Now the display is really crisp and it's very easy to use. Of course, it has a lot of functions, so you might get confused in the beginning. But overall, I think it's a great touch, probably the best touch screen on the market in this segment. And of course, you have this driver display, which I think is really clean, clutter-free, and it's great to use. I mean, all the information is there. It's very clear to read, and I love this one. Now the steering wheel, of course, dons Mahindra's new logo, and it's also a quite chunky unit. And overall, Mahindra says that the inspiration for this cabin has come from outer space or something like that. However, I think you don't have to go that far to understand where the inspiration is coming from, because the cabin looks very much like new age Mercedes cars. You see this hyper screen, or the super screen as Mahindra likes to call it. It's very similar to Mercedes. Even the controls here, it's good quality, but the fonts and the way everything has been put together here, there's a clear inspiration that's coming from Mercedes. Even the electric seat controls are on the door, much like Mercedes cars. Is it a bad thing? Well, not really. You are getting all sort of features, and the quality levels are also quite good in a car that's sub 15 lakh or maximum 20 lakh rupees. So overall, the cabin of the XUV700, I think that's where Mahindra has taken the game forward. The seats are really great. We drove the car in the morning for nearly 70-80 kilometers. Of course, the seats are very comfortable, very cushiony, and good back and side support also. The ergonomics of the XUV500, well, they were a bit of a hit and miss situation, but with this, they have really sorted it out. The steering is now pointing towards the driver. Earlier, it used to be like the Bolero, it used to go just up, and away. So those were small flaws in that car, and Mahindra has definitely fixed it with the XUV700. So great job by Mahindra. I think the interior is really very well done, and it now feels probably as good as a Kia or a Hyundai, which was not the case earlier. And it's really packed with all the features. And if you're looking for a feature-packed cabin, well, this car, it's second to none. Now, of course, like everything in life, this is not perfect. There are a couple of things that I do not like particularly. This faux wood finish, I think it looks quite cheap. It's not wood, it's plastic, but the finish is also quite weird, so I'm not a fan of this. Apart from that, of course, you don't get an auto-dimming IRVM, so that's also another miss feature in a car that's going to cost you 20 lakh on road nearly. I think that's a miss. But overall, of course, these are small niggles, but overall this cabin is really well packed. Mahindra will offer the XUV700 in MX and AX series with 4 variants in total. The MX3 is the entry-level variant, while the AX7 is the range-topping variant. Here's what's on offer with each. On top of all of these, the XUV700 will have an optional pack which adds a Sony 3D sound system, electrically deployed smart door handles, 360 surround view, blind view monitoring, electronic parking brake and wireless charging. All-wheel drive will be optional, but it will be offered only with the automatic version of the top-end AX7 7-seater variant. If you're looking for rear seat comfort, the XUV700 doesn't disappoint either. You have these great seats here, great support, the thigh support is great, there's a lot of headroom, and even in terms of space also, you can sit 3 people very easily. Now coming to the seating capacity, of course Mahindra is going to launch this car in 2 variants, 5-seater and 7-seater. So that means you're not going to get a 6-seater version, which means you're not going to get captain seats in the middle. But even then, I think it's quite spacious. The seats are very nice, and the back support is also nice. You get these nice headrests as well. There are AC vents and there is a USB-C charger. So Mahindra has, of course, taken care of the backseat passenger as well. So even if you don't want to drive, you just want to sit at the back, I think this is a pretty sorted car. Now the car we have here is, of course, the 7-seater version. The prices have not been announced, but of course it will come to the market pretty soon. So let's check if the third row is as good as before or as bad as before, because from what I remember, it didn't have a lot of space at the back. But let's hop in and check out if the third row has space for a fully sized adult. Well, the space is quite tight here, I'm not denying that, but it doesn't feel claustrophobic actually. So if you have kids, probably below 15 years of age, they can sit here probably for short durations, but long rides, of course, they're going to suffer because the floor is not quite flat. So you're sitting here with your knees pointing up. It's not going to be comfortable over long rides for adults. Yeah, of course, it's a strict no-no, unless, of course, it's an emergency and you just want to use 7 seats. Then you can do that. There is a cup holder here. There are AC vents as well, and you also get speakers over here. So yeah, this car has a Sony 3D surround system with 12 speakers. Very good, very impressive unit, and you have this 12-volt socket here as well. So quite tight here, but the seats are quite comfortable actually. The headroom is also not bad. I'm 5'8" and I think it's decent, but of course if you're going to hit a bump, your head is going to hit the roof. So yes, it's strictly for kids, no adults allowed or shouldn't be allowed here. And what this also does is that there is virtually no boot space if you are 7 up. So that is something, it's a trade-off. Of course, if you can live with it, well, fine. But if you're thinking that you're going to get a 7-seat car and you can go on a nice and long drive with your family, 7 people on board, well, of course you can, but then you wouldn't have to take any luggage because there is virtually no space. So that's the only problem here. But overall, I think it's quite decent. Well, this is the real litmus test of this car because right now we are driving it. So today it's been a long day for us because we are at Mahindra's testing facility, and this has been made for testing their SUVs, especially because Mahindra is an SUV manufacturer. So we drove this car on the high-speed track, nearly did 200 kilometers per hour. but I'll come to that later. And of course, we drove it at the off-road track and we tested the brakes and we did slalom runs and all that. So first things first, let me talk about the engines first. This is going to be offered in two engine options. One is a diesel, one is a petrol. So the petrol is a 2-liter turbocharged engine and it produces nearly 200 bhp. It is rated at 197 bhp and it develops 380 newton meters of torque. So that's a lot of grunt, and it comes with 6-speed manual as well as a 6-speed automatic. Same goes for the diesel. It comes with a 2.2-liter engine, same 6-speed manual and 6-speed automatic gearbox options. So right now I'm driving the petrol version, which I think is going to be the hot seller because it produces nearly 200 bhp and the performance is really mind-blowing. So this is the same engine that does duty in the Mahindra Thar. Of course, it is the upgraded version, so it delivers more grunt than the Thar. So in this application, when you drive this car, well, you have grunt throughout the rev range. The moment you step on the throttle pedal, well, this car, you can hear it does a little bit of wheel spin and then it just goes. So there is some sort of lag at lower RPMs, but once you get going, well, there is no stopping. You do feel that it is a little too much power, but it's really fun. And today on the main straight of this track, we were told not to cross 140 kilometers per hour, but I can tell you that not listen to those guys, and that wasn't intentional. But this car, it just goes. I mean, you touch 170, 180 quite easily. There is a bit of wind noise that you experience once you cross 100 kilometers per hour, but in terms of stability, well, I think it's pretty good. Now, another thing about the engine is the gearbox. So this is the same Aisin gearbox, that 6-speed torque converter. Very well matched with the engine. It's very aggressive. The moment you demand performance, it quickly downshifts the gears, and it's quite aggressive in that sense. We've also experienced it with the Thar. So very good power train this car has, especially this petrol one. Well, I think if you are going to buy, the diesel is of course going to be a hot favorite. But if you want performance, if you want to see what this SUV can do, I think you should definitely opt for the petrol version. The refinement levels are also quite impressive. It does sound a little gruff at low RPMs, but once you pick up speed, well, it smoothens out. So even in that regard, there is not much to complain. And Mahindra's powertrain division, well, they have done a really good job with the engine, I have to say. Other area where Mahindra has worked comprehensively on the XUV700 is the chassis and the suspension tuning. Well, it has an all-new chassis, this car, and of course it's lighter, it's stiffer, and the suspension, well, suspension is all new on all 4 corners. So this car now gets independent suspension, multi-link rear suspension at the back, and you can see the difference it makes. The XUV500, when you used to drive it fast and you'd go over imperfect roads, well, you could see that car wasn't that confident. It used to hop around, the rear used to step out on you. No such problems with this car. We are doing nearly 150 kilometers per hour today, and the stability this car has, straight line stability or around corners, it's really brilliant. I mean, of course, it's an SUV, it's softly sprung, and there is a bit of body roll, but it tracks the corner perfectly, and I think, it is a really step up in comparison to the XUV500. And Mahindra, well, they have gone to town with this car. They have just done so much. The kind of efforts they've put in, well, it's quite evident, and you can't really fault them for that. And the best part about this car is the ride quality. Now, this car also comes with adaptive dampers, or FSD as Mahindra likes to call them. The advantage of that is a superb ride quality. This car has been developed by engineers who have come from the streets of India, because they know what sort of road conditions we have. Today morning I was driving this car, did nearly 70 kilometers on all sort of roads around Chennai. Well, you could feel there was not a single moment where I felt the suspension is not up to the job. It is this all-round nature of the suspension that really impresses me. You drive other cars from the segment, they are good in one area, but there's a compromise in other front. But this car, of course, the handling is not going to be like a sedan, but it's quite predictable. The steering is light, but it has decent feedback. And this is another area where Mahindra has put in a lot of effort. So the steering is not as light or as lifeless as it used to be in the XUV500. In this, it feels rather nice.
The diesel version comes with 4 driving modes: Zip, Zap, Zoom and Custom, which aren't offered with the petrol. At the track, we also got to test XUV700's ADAS systems, which include forward collision warning, autonomous emergency brakes, lane departure warning, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, and more. In the control setting at the track, the ADAS system worked without any glitch. But given the number of variables we have on our roads, it'll be difficult to say that it'll work as flawlessly in the real world.
So if you are looking for a car that can do all, if you're looking for an SUV that is, that has all the modern features, well, the XUV500, I really can't falter it, especially given its price. They have priced it rather brilliantly. I know they've just announced the prices for the 5-seater version, and the price for the automatic versions have not been announced, but 11.99 lakh for a car with nearly 200 horsepower and manual gearbox, well, I'll buy that just for the engine. But to be honest, it's not just the engine, it's the whole effort, because what Mahindra has created with the XUV700, well, it's a winner, because even this top end variant, you'll have all-wheel drive optional as well. Right now we are driving the front-wheel drive version, but of course you'll get all-wheel drive, you'll get the 7-seater versions, you'll get automatic. But even then, I don't think the price is going to be more than 18 lakh ex showroom. And for that kind of money, well, you're getting a lot in return. Just look at the features, just look at all the equipment they've packed it with. Well, I'd be surprised if they don't sell it well, and I'd be surprised if this doesn't kill the competition, because first of all, it's a Mahindra. We all know Mahindra has a strong fan following in India, and given what they have produced here, well, they are going to just rule the market. That's what I can say, because this SUV, I think I'm really impressed with what Mahindra has created. Earlier, you'd drive a Mahindra, you'd say, okay, it's good in some areas, but like the interiors were very dull, the ergonomics didn't feel right, it didn't feel as sorted as its Korean or Japanese or European counterparts. But now, I think they have just bettered them all probably. So just waiting for the prices of the top end variant, but I'm guessing it's all going to be below 20 lakh rupees. And for that, well, this is all the car or all the SUV that you'll ever need for our road conditions. Mahindra has really hit it out of the park with the XUV700.